My name is Therese, as Jim said. Today's scriptures contain three parables. One from Ezekiel about the sprig of a cedar that, when planted, becomes a majestic tree, the people of Israel, who will be known throughout creation for their special bond with God. And two parables from Mark, who records Jesus' short stories about seeds and their mysterious growth, suggesting perhaps the role of faith in the expansion of the new kingdom. I always thought parables were short allegories meant to teach a moral lesson. However, according to one of the authors of the many pages of exegesis provided by Mary Loris, parables are employed by prophets to reorient the mindset. This morning, I will explore this definition of parable, and I will talk about trees and how they are responsible for a significant reorientation of my faith. Before I launch into my reflections, I again invite you to greet with your mind's eye that tree that Jim talked about earlier, or perhaps a forest that elicits memories of love and connection. Ask that tree to sit with you. For as far back as I can remember, I've had a romance with trees. My very first memory was of walking home from the bus stop following half-day kindergarten, when elm trees that lined our boulevard were sparkling like they were sprinkled with millions of diamonds, a combined blessing of ice remnants from a storm and bright sunshine. I was awestruck. As a child and adolescent, I spent a lot of time on our front steps, just thinking, while looking at the green canopy of those same fabulous elms. Now, in the yard where Rob and I have lived for 29 years, there are three trees, a birch, a basswood, and a bur oak. The oak and basswood are still alive and thriving. The beautiful birch that graced our front yard died about 8 years ago. I named her Wise Woman because her trunk leaned precariously over the boulevard, and in the autumn, her long branches hung low like a mass of golden hair. I still grieve her loss with tears. I cannot explain my deep connection to her. But it's another tree encounter, though, that really changed me. It occurred 25 years ago, and it was my own parabolic, yes, that's a word, experience, where my faith underwent a significant reorientation. I was on the island of Maui in a stand of fantastically giant eucalyptus trees. I gravitated toward one tree in particular. I sat against it, meditated, and prayed. I realize this will sound really strange, but I felt this tree called to me, that it knew me. It knew my history, my mind, my heart. Even as I say this to you, it sounds a little woo-woo to me. But after a while of sitting with this tree, with utter clarity, I heard it say, "You and I are one. All is one." That brief conversation with that tree changed me, and a new belief took deep root in me. All is one. When I live out of that belief, I'm whole, I am peaceful, I live with gratitude. It's possible that the prophet Ezekiel may have had a similar experience, for he did record, "All the trees of the field shall know that I am the Holy One." I'll now switch gears a bit because the teacher in me needs to offer a short lesson about trees and advances in tree science. Now, I have to admit that Mark kind of stole my thunder because I was going to talk a little bit about the science of trees. But allow me first to guide you through an ode of gratitude for trees. From my deck in Southeast Minneapolis, without moving from my chair, I can see the branches of 51 distinct trees. Who knew? I encourage you to try this exercise. And I mention this because trees, even trees in our urban forest, are ubiquitous. They are so much a part of our everyday as Minnesotans that it is easy to take them for granted or barely take note of them at all. However, trees and the wood they give us are integral to our lives. Humanity has evolved from its earliest beginnings with trees as companions. Our brains, our bodies, and our spirits have developed as they exist now because of the kinship we have with our sister brother trees. Consider this. Because of trees, early humans were able to harness the technology of fire. And later, the carbon remains of ancient forests provided coal to heat our near ancestors' homes. In much of the world, trees give structure to our dwellings. Trees were hollowed into boats native peoples used to migrate across bodies of water. And later, giant oaks were felled to build the very ships that weathered the Atlantic with many of our relatives on board. Trees are the source of furniture in our homes, musical instruments that we play, pharmaceuticals that keep us healthy, the paper for our books, our reflections, our letters. Trees provide food for insects, birds, animals, us. And those are just the practical ways that we are constantly in touch with trees. The less obvious, but even more vital ways are that trees, the approximately 3 trillion on Earth, vacuum up and sequester carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas that when expelled in excess into the atmosphere contributes to global warming. And thankfully, trees, through the chemical reaction we know as photosynthesis, release the byproduct oxygen for all of creation's collective breathing. Referring back to that opening prayer, Hildegard says, through science, we are learning more and we need to pay attention. As a result of scientific research, there's an increased understanding of the mystery of the lesser known hidden parts of trees that lie beneath our feet. For example, a large oak can have a root system that laid end to end is 5 miles long. Even more spectacular, as Mark said, there's a mycorrhizal network made up of mycelium, a type of fungi that is so abundant on and between a tree's roots that the mycelium attached to a large oak, laid end to end, could nearly circle our planet. This mycorrhizal network works in tandem with the tree. The fungus penetrates and envelops tiny root hairs, which then extend far beyond the root ends through the underground forest, essentially enhancing the capacity of the tree roots to take up water and nutrients from the soil. These fungi are not altruistic partners. They too benefit from the relationship by absorbing as much as a third of a tree's carbohydrate production. As Mark said, researchers are also learning that groups of trees, with the help of their symbiotic fungi partners, share resources amongst each other in a type of social welfare system. Trees are redistributing water and nutrients to their sisters and brothers in need. Scientists liken these fungal networks to fiber optic highways because they appear to transmit electric and chemical signals that communicate warnings about predators such as viruses and bacteria, so that trees can react by releasing hormones and compounds to protect themselves and the collective. As I conclude, I'll share my favorite wisdom from John O'Donohue, who wrote in his book, Beauty, the Invisible Embrace, "There is a moreness to everything that can never be exhausted." I'll repeat that because I love it so much. There is a moreness to everything that can never be exhausted. O'Donohue's reference to a moreness that is inexhaustible says to me that what we see with our eyes, hearts, minds, and spirits is a mere fraction of what exists. The tree is a perfect example of this. There is the trunk and the branches and the leaves we see, but what we can't see is equally as miraculous and beautiful. Similarly, as science advances, we amass knowledge, but we also learn how much we don't know. I believe the moreness O'Donohue refers to is where opportunities abound for grace and experiences of oneness. It is also an invitation to dig into the unknown, to stretch our roots, and to tap into the divine, where all is pure and whole and boundless. In the moments, and I mean moments, when I live in acknowledgement of and concert with the One, I am more apt to experience awe and gratitude. And I live with humility, connection, and non-judgment. I think some people call that flow, others grace. Last Thursday, as I wrestled with my thoughts about this homily, I sat outside on the space that was once home to my wise woman tree. I asked her, what should I say? I heard her respond, pay attention. Honor our sojourn with you, our sacrifice. See us, hear us, awaken to our presence. The more you know us, the more you will know yourselves, your connections, your interdependence. In gratitude for, and with the aid and advice of our kin, the trees, may we come to more fully understand that all is holy, all is one. Amen.